I want to show you the scene in Moscow earlier today. They had his funeral actually on some ice, and there are some of the medals as Paul Wiley, Scott Hamilton in the background, Ekaterina Gordieva saying an early farewell, his widow to her husband. And even in Russia, your kids are supposed to outlive you. Here at CBS, with this tragic news, we felt that, well, we had lost a member of our family. We were happy to share with you many of Sergei's greatest moments, and so we say goodbye, good friend, with this tribute.
When they skated together, there was no separation between them. I mean, they would look into each other's eyes literally the whole time, and most pairs don't do that. Probably because that would betray the fact that they don't absolutely love each other, you know? This was so deep and so rich that they could just lock eyes for the whole entire performance. And it had everything to do with their whole life together.
The love they shared, I think, was just, you know, heaven. It was so pure and so beautiful. It's like everything that they had did seem just unreal and something that everyone wanted, but yet everyone loved just to see in them.
You don't think of her without him, and you don't think of him without her. And that'll never change. It's always going to be Sergei and Katya. You know, I mean, just to have been, just have known them and to spend as much time as I have with them, I mean, my life is so much better. You know, he was mój большой друг. I miss him.
Scott Hamilton and the rest of the Stars on Ice cast, including Sergei and Katya, were in Lake Placid Monday rehearsing for their opening night, which was to be this evening. It was while practicing for that show that Sergei collapsed.
It was just like any other day. And all of a sudden, like, Elena just burst into the 1980 rink, which is adjacent to the USA rink, crying hysterically. And we thought that it was Sergei's back because he had been injured. And of course, you know, a career-ending or a year-ending injury is like, you know, that. I mean, is that major? But, you know, we put on our guards and ran across to see what was going on. And I got there, and that somebody had a respirator on him. He was blue.
And you just felt helpless. You wanted to do something, but there was nothing to do.
So my first response was just to put my hand on Katya's back and start praying. And then I just put my hand on Sergei's skate to pray, and it was just so limp, and there just wasn't anything there.
He was taken to the hospital, and all we can do is sit together in the hotel.
And I just looked at the lake, and there was just a complete stillness over it. And I told Rosalind, I was like, the lake is holding its breath for Sergei. And we were too.
Scott Hamilton used to say, Sergei and Katya's hearts seemed to beat as one. But Monday afternoon in Lake Placid, that was no longer true. Never again would we behold the poise, the perfection, the passion these skaters had shared with us time and time again.
You can't compare them with anybody that came before them or anybody that will come after, because they were so unique, and they blended a perfection of skills on the ice with a depth of quality of artistry that can only come from deep within.
Sergei and Katya were apart from everybody else. Not because of their technical ability and not because they had the internal strength to be Olympic champions, but because of love.
Theirs was a love nurtured by time. Sergei and Katya first met at a rink in Moscow when he was 8 and she was only 4. And when they won the World Junior Championships in 1985, the relationship had not yet taken a romantic turn. Katya was the adorable little sister. Even at 14, you couldn't take your eyes off of her. Sergei, the very protective older brother. And it was this image that would take them and their skating through the next few years. 1986, their first World Championships. And wouldn't you know it, they won the Worlds in their first try.
The first time I ever saw them, they made such a huge impact that I knew that I was going to be seeing them a lot and for a long time. She was tiny, skinny little, tiny, short little skater, and he was very thin too. He was still kind of growing up, but not out yet. And she ran the show. I mean, it was like they were on this practice, and she was just skating fast, and it was, you know, hold it, slow down, what are you doing? She was running the coach. She was running Sergei, and they were just, it was like they're focused, and I mean, she was really in charge.
2 years later, the Calgary Olympics. By now, Katya was a 16-year-old pixie, and when you saw her smile, it was easy to forget she even had a partner. But it was Sergei whose subdued strength allowed her to shine. They would capture the gold medal.
As a child, when she looked at him, she idolized him. And then over the years, you could see how that changed and how he began to look at her. She blossomed into this beautiful woman, and he would just look at her.
16 years after first setting eyes on one another, they were married in 1991. Katya's Prince Charming finally realized his princess had been right next to him all along. Now they had it all: an Olympic gold medal, a successful professional career, and a storybook marriage. But there was something missing in their lives. In the latter months of 1993 and on through the Lillehammer Olympic Games of 1994, we became acquainted with Gordieva and Grinkov in a way we never had before. That Soviet Iron Curtain, so difficult to see through, was gone. And so were the children who had won the pair's gold medal in 1988. In their place, a charming young woman and her dashingly handsome partner, now wife and husband, now parents. With the birth of their daughter Daria in September of 1992, a new outlook on life and sport. Suddenly, skating in shows was not enough. Returning to the Olympics to capture the glory once again became their passion.
It was a big step, I think, for us. And who was pushing us on this step was Daria, I think, because she gives us
idea that we're supposed to do something to her.
The change in skating rules, which allowed Gordieva and Grinkov to return to Lillehammer, brought a wave of gold medalists back to the Olympic ranks. But only one among this distinguished group would be able to repeat the triumphs of the past.
Welcome back.
That is going to be tough to beat.
It was enough to put them in the lead, but it was a lead that was not going to be easy to hold as they prepared for the free skate.
Actually, Sergei didn't sleep like the night before. He didn't tell me anything, and it was, I just found out it after the competition, and it was kind of my mistake that I didn't find out. I didn't realize that he was so nervous, because I always was so calm about him, and he always was so calm, and he was always nervous about me. But maybe this time he was too nervous about both of us.
12 years of skating together had come to this moment, and it was one for which they had chosen a piece of music sufficiently elegant, sufficiently sublime to match their own talents, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata.
Side-by-side double axles. Nobody in the world does this next move better than they do. A split triple twist. Look at the speed, the height. One of their strongest moves, but also one of the most dangerous. Throw triple sow cow.
It's the story of their life they're telling. This section about their love for each other.
Slight bobble in the landing of that double flip by Sergei. You can't make any mistakes. You've just followed two of the best pair teams in the world, and they both skated their best.
Their journey was now complete. And Gordieva and Grinkov found themselves with a familiar color of metal hanging from their necks, gold. She was 22, he 27. They would move to America and a new home and cherish their time with Daria. Hey, Grinkov, I think the overwhelming feeling of sadness we have is born out of an understanding both of what he was and what now will not be. He was such a gentleman who with his wife seemed to form such a perfect pair. Those who knew them best tell me that Katya fell in love with Sergei years before he got smart and returned the interest. Eventually there was marriage, there was Daria, there was talk of a larger family and life in a new land. And now that will not be, and that is what rips at the heart. 28 years of age, so accomplished and yet bursting with promise. For family, for friends, and for fans, we are all diminished by his death.
And last night even, Katya, when I was talking to her, she said, maybe it was too good. Maybe it was, they had so much that was all they could have. It was so good, and it was so perfect. And when she said that, I thought, well, there's a major devastation here, but at the same time, there's an appreciation for what they had together and for, the time that they shared, and it was complete appreciation and understanding that what they had was unique, it was special, and it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen to everybody. They were so good together, especially off the ice.
You saw them off the ice as a family, and there was so much joy. And so I think they're definitely some very happy memories that are gonna live on forever.
Little Daria's memories of her father will now come from her mother. She'll tell Daria stories of how great a skater her father was and how he used to hold her in his arms. Of the first pair of skates he bought her. And how he used to hold her in his arms. And maybe one day, when she's old enough, Daria will ask about the love between her mother and her father. And when that day comes, her mother will show her one special performance, a performance that tells the story of her mother and father's life. The Man I Love, sung by Ella Fitzgerald.
Someday he'll come along, the man I love, and he'll be big and strong, the man I love. And when he comes my way, I'll do my best to make him stay. He'll look at me and smile, I'll understand. And in a little while, he'll take my hand. And though it seems absurd, I know we both won't say a word. Maybe I shall meet him Sunday, maybe Monday, maybe not. Still, I'm sure to meet him one day, maybe Tuesday will be my good news day. He'll build a little home just meant for two, from which I'll never roll. Would you? And so all else above, I'm waiting for the man I love.
Sergei Grinkov is survived by his wife, Ekaterina, his daughter, Daria, and all of our fond memories.